Hey, what's up guys, it's Nick2. Today I'm going to be showing you guys an amazing new flak build that is going to do a ton of damage, and it actually isn't a fadeaway build, it's a Rakk attack build. This build does a ton of elemental damage. It's great for Mayhem 4, great for clearing out the raid, great for if you're playing with friends as well because they're getting a lot of your gun damage bonuses. Overall, build does a ton of damage, and I'm really excited to show you guys this build. Credit to Unique Duck for coming up with this build, and let's get right into it. Big thanks to today's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Raid is a dark fantasy done right. Raid is popular on mobile, and the game has over 15 million downloads in the last 6 months, and you can find the download link down in the description. Raid Shadow Legends is a hero collection turn-based game with over 400 champions unlock and customize. In Raid, you're able to explore over 1 million champion builds, discover 13 amazing locations, and raid with friends in a clan. Not only that, but the game is also free to play. Some of my favorite features in the game are the multi-battle auto mode, which actually allows you to play the game in auto while you're doing something else, which is pretty cool. And there's also weekly tournaments and events, which I thought is pretty awesome as well. The game is going fast, and they have huge plans for the future. Recently, they even added a new faction and a tag team arena feature, and even a new clan boss for you and your clanmates to fight. If you end up getting the game and you're looking to play with me, you can add me under the name Nick2, and you'll maybe be able to join my clan if you're fast enough. So, what are you waiting for? Go to the video description, click on the special links, and you'll get 50,000 silver and a free epic champion as a part of our new player program to start your journey. So we're just going to start off with a completely empty slate like usual and just talk about all the talents, and then at the end we're going to talk about all the anointed effects that you want to get, your relics, your class mods, etc. Normally that isn't a huge part of it, but right now with this build you want anointed effects for this to work, otherwise it's not going to be that great of a build, and you want some certain things paired with each other to make it work. So I definitely recommend staying until the end so that you know what shields and other stuff like that to get for. So, and we're starting off, we're going to go 5 points into an interplanetary stalker. This is pretty obvious. This is just going to give us a ton of extra damage and pet damage, overall really strong. And then we also are going to pick up a Rakk attack here. Then we're going to go 3 points into leave no trace. You could decide to omit this and go for second intention instead, just for flat reload speed. Kind of depends on the weapon that you're using. Obviously leave no trace is really good if you're using, like a Jacob shotgun or something like that that has multiple pellets per shot, so that you're getting all that ammo back pretty quickly. But if you're not using something like that, you're using maybe like a one pump jump or something, and you just want the flat reload speed with second intention, you can easily go for that. But for me, I'm just going to go for 3 points into leave no trace. Then we're going to go 3 points into Hunter's Eye. This is going to give us some extra crit damage, some extra armor damage against robots, and some extra damage reduction against beasts. And then we're going to put the rest of our points into Two Fang. The reason that I go for Two Fang rather than Hunter's Eye is because Two Fang is just flat damage, while Hunter's Eye is not going to be constant damage against everything that we're fighting, and even when it is, it's not a ton of extra damage. I actually made a mistake. I meant to put 2 points into Hunter's Eye and then 5 points into Two Fang, because getting extra projectiles chance literally just correlates to flat additional damage, and that's much more beneficial than just getting crit damage or armor damage or damage reduction. But if you're farming a certain type of boss that is a robot or a beast or something like that, you could change it. But for me, I'm going full into Two Fang. That's just a ton of extra damage, and we're going to be avoiding the rest of these as they're not really going to help us all out all that much. Then we're going to go 3 points into Big Game and then 3 points into Most Dangerous Game. Big Game, of course, is going to increase the duration of our kill skills as well as the effectiveness of them. So Interplanetary Stalker being one of those. We're getting extra duration there and extra damage, as well as increasing the duration of the Most Dangerous Game, which is insane. It makes it last for 4 minutes, and this increases your gun damage, your crit damage, your weapon handling, and your pet damage. And the best part of it, you get rich when you kill shit, baby. But yeah, overall, this is really good. Last 4 minutes, ton of extra damage. I mean, Most Dangerous Game is a huge pickup, especially when you pair it with Big Game. Next we're going to go into is 3 points into Grim Harvest. This gives us extra gun damage and action skill damage, as well as pet damage, pretty much is overall increasing the damage of a Rakk attack and our damage. The reason that we don't go 5 points into this is because we want enough points left over into the next tree so that we can pick up some talents that give us some extra survivability. Then we're going to go 1 point into Galactic Shadow, and then 1 point into Megavore. This is going to give us extra crit chance and extra crit damage, pretty much. And then in terms of what we want to put on our pets and stuff, we're going to go Spider Ant Scorcher for elemental damage. If you want damage reduction, you can go for that, but this build is pretty centered around doing a lot of elemental damage, so I definitely make sure to pick this up. But It's not a huge deal, it's only 10% extra damage. And then we're going to go into Flock and Load and Rakk Accelerate. Now, if you're having problems with survivability, Falconer's Feast can be really good because whenever Flax Rakk damages an enemy, a portion of your health is restored, giving you 7%. With the class mod that we're using, that's going to send out additional racks, as well as using one of these where you're just constantly throwing racks all over the place, every time you damage them, you could get upwards of 50% of your health returned. So if you're realizing that you're having problems with survivability, you could probably replace Rakk Accelerate with this, or you could replace Flock and Load. I feel like replacing Rakk Accelerate would probably be the better option because you're, throwing out more racks with Flock and Load. I'm getting all tongue-tied over here. But I haven't personally tested it, so if you have tested it, leave it down in the comments and let me know what is better. In theory, this should be pretty good if you're having survivability issues, like I said, because you're just returning a lot of your max health every time your rack deals damage, and you're sending out a pretty good amount of racks with this setup. So let me know how you guys like that. Then moving on into the blue tree here, we're going to go 3 points into Persistence Hunter. This is just going to increase our gun damage and our action skill duration. Not that great for the rack attack, but just giving us some extra gun damage is nice. And then just because we need to get further into the tree, 2 points into Ferocity, just to give us some extra gun damage. Or pet damage, sorry. And then we're going to go 4 points into Who Rescued Who. This is just giving us some health regeneration and converting some of our damage into our pet health, just making sure that he stays up. The reason we want this is we never want our pet to die because we're going to be stacking 5 points into Frenzy, which is going to give us 40% extra damage pretty much all the time because our pet's going to get that stack up and then he's just going to keep it up. That's what we mainly want to do there. And then you can either put 1 more point to Who Rescued Who. I'm just going to put 1 point to He Bites just so that some of the damage that your pet is taking is going to get reflected. It's not a whole lot of additional damage there, but it's just nice to have. Maybe if, just your pet's running around just to have him reflect some of the damage that he's taking. He's going to be taking a lot of damage in Mayhem 4, so getting a lot of, getting +4 into Who Rescued Who is a huge pickup there. And then we're going to go 5 points into Barbaric Yop. This is just going to increase the effectiveness of our Frenzy pretty much. And then we're going to go 2 points into Pack Tactics, which is going to increase our damage and increase our maximum health. Overall, really good for Mayhem 4. That's pretty much the main pickups here, is that we're trying to get pretty much just buff our Frenzy, and then we're getting some, survivability here and making sure that our pet survives. That's pretty much why we go into that tree. There could be reasons to go into this tree, getting Fast and Furious and getting Furious Attack depending upon the gun that you're using, getting Turn, Tail, and Run, getting self-repairing system for some survivability. There is some merit to getting some of these, but personally I think that it's more worth it to go into this tree, and that is how I've tested the build. Now getting into the guns, this is a pretty important part of the build, and this is definitely what you want to do. You want to get any Anointed effect that increases the damage that you do. Enemies damaged by Rakk attack rather take 100% increased damage for a short time. This pretty much just makes it to where any hardened badass or anything like that, as you saw in the Slaughter Shaft, you pretty much hit them with the Rakk attack, and then they just take a ton of damage. When you pair this with Anointed effect on your shield and your grenade, where on action skill end you gain 50% bonus shock damage, fire damage, radiation damage, cryo damage, when you pair that together, you're pretty much just doing a ton of extra damage once you send out your Rakk attack, and then your Rakk attacks have damaged that enemy. You can pretty much just then blow them up. If you're using a kinetic weapon, such as the Maggie or the One Pump Chump or something that isn't elemental, it's going to gain a little bit more effectiveness out of the elemental damage buffs. But if you are to say use Illusion's Call or something and it is cryo, make sure to not use something that is that is anointed cryo. So for example, if I were to have a shield that gave me a 50% extra cryo damage, it would not stack with the Illusion's Call if I were to have 2 of them. So I'd make sure to kind of swap out your elements there so that you have a nice pair between them. I just have right now, I have fire and I have shock, which is really good, but you could easily go for cryo if you want to free stuff, is what it is. And then for the class mod here, we want to go for a Vulpine Rakk pack. This is just going to make it to where whenever your Rakk hit an enemy, it's going to split into more racks to seek out more enemies. So you're pretty much sending a ton of racks because you're going to send 3 racks at once, which are then all going to split off into 2 more, and then those are going to split off, and it's just absolute madness. So you definitely want to go for this. This is also just going to make it to where you're getting the Anointed effect where enemies damaged by Rakk attack. This is going to stack to more enemies, so if you're doing AoE damage with Illusion's Call or Rowan's Call, all of those ricochet bullets are going to be doing extra damage because the other enemies are getting damaged by your racks that are flying all over the place. In terms of what you want on it, you can, getting the points into this. I can't even remember the names of them. Getting points into Grim Harvest and Pack Tactics is really good. Overall, that's just extra damage and extra survivability, so that's pretty strong there. And then I have Jacob's weapon crit damage, action skill cooldown rate, and shield recharge rate. You want a decent amount of action skill cooldown rate so that you can just spam your flax over and over again, or your racks rather, because with racks and flax and all this rack pack crap, dude, Borderlands is trolling me. You want a lot of action skill cooldown rate so that you can just spam out your racks so that you gain the Anointed effect bonuses pretty much as frequently as possible. So you want at least about 50% is where I'd say is what you want. And then we have a temporary invuln victory rush right here. This is really good. This also increases our shield recharge rate, but I mainly have it for the invuln, and it's also going to give us victory rush, which is just movement speed and extra damage, which is really strong there. But you know, instead of getting Jacob's weapon crit damage, you could just get, you know, whatever weapon you're using. Maybe if you're using one pump jump, you could just get, you know, shotgun damage, or you could get, I don't know, up to you, you know, entirely up to you. You could just get flat weapon damage, whatever. In terms of what, you know, shields you want and stuff like that, the shield is pretty good as it has pretty good capacity. You could also get like a stopgap, or you could get a transformer. That's also really strong. Main thing is that you just want the Anointed effect, and then getting a recurring hex is really good. Particularly a cryo hex is pretty strong, but radiation is also really good. It kind of just depends on what you're doing, but overall those are really strong. In terms of what weapons are good, you know, Maggie's good, Deadeye Becca's good, One Pump Jump is really strong, Lucian's Call for mobbing's really good, Rowan's Call, you know, anything that has these Anointed effects are really good. And depending upon what you're doing, getting an extra charge of Rakk attack could also be helpful if you want to, you know, maybe like swap to that weapon and then use the extra Rakk attack charges and then swap back. That could be really strong, and then you could just spam out racks even more and then gain even more survivability out of the fact that you got Falconer's Feast. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you guys have any tips for the build, any ways to improve it, or any other types of builds that you would like to let me know about, please leave it down in the comments below, and I will definitely make sure to check them out. All right, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Peace.